Okay, so finally here we are to the Magic School Bus looking at the solar system. As we said, this is the Magic School Bus presents our solar system. This is Scholastic is the publisher, and I won't spend too much time on this. We already said many things about the solar system to the extent of how Earth's orbit and Sun are related to each other in terms of energy. We will mention other planets because there are some important points to make. By comparing our neighboring planets to our planet, we learn a lot about weather and climate on Earth and on the neighboring planets. So let's read off quickly some of the material. So here I'm with, some of this will be very basic for some of you, so you can jump these. We got to school really early. The sun had not come up yet, and we could see stars in the dark sky above us. So we talked about the sun coming up, sun going down, diurnal cycle. So you can get out to school early. In the US, there is a constant debate about whether children are being made to wake up too early. Today we are going to learn about the solar system, said Miss Frizzle. The solar system is our little patch of space. The sun sits on the middle of it. The sun sits in the middle of it, while Earth and other planets orbit the sun. So the sun rises every morning and sets every night, as I said, every evening, but the sun is not moving. It's the Earth that moves. It rotates once every 24 hours, which gives us day and night, as we said before. So here are the kids on a school bus. Planets look bright stars. Each one follows its own path across the sky. Planets look like bright stars. I don't know why I missed like. Planets look like bright stars. Each one follows its own path across the sky, right? Okay, so you can add a few more details. It's a name game. Name that planet and their names. When I move, I may go out of the frame, which is not a good way of doing things, but nonetheless, planets and their names by Carlos. I won't read all this, but you already know besides Earth there are 7 other planets in the solar system, because Pluto is now debated as whether it's a real planet or not. Humans have known about the nearest planets for thousands of years. They can be seen with just plain eyes. The 2 farthest planets were only discovered after astronomers started using telescopes to study the sky. Telescope was invented in the 14 or 1500s. You can look it up. And ancient people named the planets after their gods. Today we use the names of the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses of all of the planets except Earth. Our planet's name comes from an English word erte, meaning ground. Earth meaning ground. I don't know why I'm putting on a funny accent. Earth. Okay, you get the point. So India, of course, many countries have their own names. Venus is Shukra, and Jupiter is Guru, Saturn is Shani, and so on and so forth, Mangal, etc. Right? So sweeping lights. The stars are set in fixed patterns called the constellation. As Earth rotates, the constellations seem to sweep slowly across the sky at night. Stars are used for navigating, sometimes like the polar star and so on. Shining bright, the stars are so far away that it takes years for their light to reach Earth. You may have heard a measure of distance called the light year, how many years the light takes to come, and this is very useful because you can use strong telescopes and other instruments to get measure how far the light has traveled before it comes here, so you can estimate the distance of that planet or the star. Frizzle fact. Miss Frizzle has pointed this out. Our sun is not the only star with planets in orbit around it. Scientists think that at least 1 in every 20 stars in the universe has a few planets of its own, and NASA, the National Space Agency, National Agency for Space and Aviation, Space and Aeronautics, I guess. You can look it up. I should know it because I worked there at one point. It and other countries have instruments out in space looking for Earth-like planets, because we are very eager to find out if there are other planets in our solar system which can support life like Earth does. Which brings us to thinking about the energy in the solar system again. So the sun, you can see the image, there are flame clouds being thrown out, huge loops of hot gas burst out from the sun's surface. This one is as high as about 20 Earths all lined up in a row. So when it's far away it looks small, but you can imagine how big the flares can be. So the sun sends out solar wind of hot gas into space, 1 million tons, almost 1 million tons. So that's TONS and TONNES. We won't get into it. So 1 million tons of gas blow away every second. That's what we said. It's fusing hydrogen into helium, boiling, having millions of degrees at the center and some 6,000 degrees at the surface, sending energy to us, and so on. So you can think of the iron in the fire with the blacksmith. When it gets very hot, it can begin to be bright red or white depending on the wavelength of the energy it is emitting, which depends on the temperature to the fourth, remember? So glowing, so in the sun it depends on the nuclear fusion and sigma T to the fourth, temperature to the fourth, but the iron is emitting by taking energy from the fire and reflecting it, whereas sun is producing his own energy. Glowing crown, the sun is surrounded by a glowing outer layer called the corona, which means crown. It is at least 8 million miles or 13 million kilometers deep, and there is no solid ground. Sun is a huge ball of super hot gases called plasma. Plasma is when the molecules are just ions. They are not think of the atom. It has a nucleus, neutrons and protons, and then you have cloud of electrons. When it gets very hot, it's just not in that simple form anymore. Okay, so plasma bubbles at the surface a bit like boiling water. There are sunspots, knots in the sun's surface, and so on and so forth. So we'll come back and look at more details about the sun. Then we'll briefly talk about the other planets and why they are so different from Earth. Okay, that's very important to understand again. Why life may be there on Earth right now as we know it, and may not be there on Venus or Mars or Jupiter. But don't be surprised if you're young, then by the time you get old, spaceships, satellites and other instruments would have found evidence that actually there are little microbes living on other planets in the solar system, at least on the moons of some of the planets in the solar system. Okay, so that'll be very exciting news when that evidence emerges, and you can learn about how they do it. How do you send a satellite somewhere far away to the moon of Saturn or Jupiter and look for whether it has water, whether it has ice, whether it has life, and so on. It's very, very interesting thing that you can do when you grow up. If you learn these things in your college and then join NASA or ISRO, you may be doing those things as well. Okay, so see you in the next podcast with more about the sun. Okay.